So judging by yesterday's video, there was a lot of interest in Kyle Busch. So let's do another video expanding on some of the things I talked about yesterday in the search for Kyle Busch's 2023 home. It seems less and less likely that Busch will find a sponsor to stay in the famous 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. So let's expand a little bit on where Kyle could go in 2023 if he will not return to Joe Gibbs Racing, because there are certainly some options out there, but it's all going to come down to the almighty dollar. Expanding on what TRD's David Wilson said yesterday that prompted my first video, there's really only one option outside of Joe Gibbs Racing in the Toyota camp, and that's 2311. Now, based on Wilson's quote yesterday, it seems like Toyota's bullish on keeping Kyle within the TRD camp. But how could he go from Joe Gibbs Racing to 2311 and also get paid? Well, the possibility would be if Toyota really wants to keep Kyle and Joe Gibbs doesn't want to pay for it, Toyota could purchase a charter for 2311 and the team could expand to 3 cars for 2023. The team will almost certainly have to make room anyway for recent signee Tyler Reddick in 2024, so why not expand a year early with Toyota's help? That also may open the door for a Kurt Busch retirement. Those Busch brothers always get a little bit confusing. If Kurt Busch retires at the end of 23, all intents and purposes, he would be replaced by his brother, Kyle Busch. And in the process, it would likely keep Toyota happy to have a team of Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, and Tyler Reddick. Now, I talked about this possibility recently in a conversation I had with renowned journalist for the SBJ Sports Business Journal, Adam Stern. This is what he had to say when I suggested what it would take to add a charter to NASCAR. Weeks. Is Bubba Wallace on the hot seat there? Because I can't see a situation where they buy another charter. I mean, could they go to a 3-car team? I don't know if that's likely.
They could go to a 3-car team, but at the same time, they've currently said that it's unclear. They say that they're still, figuring out that they just wanted to sign Reddick and then they'll go from there. I think every single option's in play. I mean, certainly, obviously, a Kurt Busch retirement is possible by that time. Mm-hmm. That's clear. He's pretty much the oldest driver still in the Cup Series, I think. So,
yeah. Easily.
Right. So that's obviously an option. To your point, I mean, Bubba, only has 1 win still. So that's probably not what they wanted. And he's not in the playoffs at this point. But, they do also legitimately, and it is legit that he has had a lot of issues with his pit crew this year. And they definitely believe that. So, I'm sure he's going to be back next year. So to your point, 2024, it could be anything. It could be a retirement for Kurt Busch. If Bubba continues to underperform and can't get any wins, and even he has a perfect pit crew and everything, and he's still not winning, and Toyota cars are doing extremely well beside him and he's not winning, then yeah, he could be replaced. But I do think, them buying a 3rd charter is also an option. It's a little bit interesting because Denny's come out and said that he's not going to invest in anything else until, they figure out what's going on with the next TV deal and whether their economics are going to improve as, a team and team owners. But from what I hear, actually, he's still out there looking for a 3rd charter, as are some others. So we'll see what happens there. But I do think a 3rd car is a possibility.
Yeah, that's what's been so wild about this charter business is that I think even Dale Jr. has expressed interest in purchasing a charter or possibly even creating some sort of an expansion charter. I think he said that on the Justin Marks Dale Jr. download. How realistic do you think it would be for NASCAR if demand is there, would be to increase the number of charters in the sport? Do you think that's a realistic possibility?
Technically, yes. It's part of the charter agreement. There's a clause within the charter agreement currently where there's like mechanisms by which they can expand the charters to 40 from 36. I think I don't know if it requires, I forget if it's like unanimous agreement between everyone involved or a majority or 2/3, something like that. But there's some mechanism by which if they get proper agreement from when they all said what the agreement was when they first put this into when they first passed the charter system, then yes, they could technically go to 40. But I don't think it's likely before 2025. I still think you've got enough kind of, owners in the sport that, people in the garage, people at NASCAR don't feel are, necessarily top level. Still think there's some back markers, so to speak, and things like that. So until you don't have, until you get rid of, and especially when you have quote unquote back markers that have like 2 charters, things like that. Now, obviously with the next gen car, and we have a spec series now, some of these teams are performing better, which is great. And some of them want to do much better, which is great. But I still don't think we're at the point yet where they're going to expand the charge. I could be wrong. I definitely don't know that for sure. I mean, it's possible that they're looking at it, but I would think that, the system seems to be working right now to the extent that if you look at it, one of the major goals of the charter system was to help the team owners who are going out and leaving, leave with value. And these charters are going up in prices big time. It was only a handful of years ago when they were worth like $5 to $7 million. Then last year, 2311 broke the record by spending like $13.5 million. Right now, from what I understand, 13.5 would be a bargain. You can't get it, the price is way up from that right now.
Wow.
So these things are just going up in price. So that's what the system was designed for. So I don't see why they would mess with it right now and try and dilute the charters. It seems like that would be self-defeating. So I don't see that happening right now.
Another obvious answer is Richard Childress Racing, especially if they send Tyler Reddick packing early. And it sounds like, especially based on their recent statement on the matter, that they are none too pleased with Mr. Tyler Reddick. And we've got quite the Alex Palou situation going on there as well. So if Richard Childress Racing cuts Tyler Reddick loose, and perhaps the Kyle Busch theory ultimately pans out to where Reddick gets added to 2311 a year early, would Kyle Busch drive for Richard Childress? Well, the answer to that question, I believe, and really it's the answer for the rest of the teams in this video, trying to get Kyle Busch anyway, is how do you pay him? Does RCR have the cash to pay Kyle Busch when they couldn't even keep a hold of their rising star? That's the question. And then it's the same story at Stewart-Haas Racing, where allegedly Eric Almirola was supposed to retire at the end of the year. But now rumors are afoot that he's being coaxed out of retirement to keep the focus on the Smithfield at Stewart-Haas. Why wouldn't Smithfield want Kyle Busch in their car? Is it too much money to ask of Smithfield? Is Almirola a cheaper driver and thus a better option for Tony Stewart and Gene Haas? But then again, looking at Gene Haas's record, he's not afraid to pay for drivers out of pocket. Very interesting. And if Richard Childress Racing and Stewart-Haas Racing can't afford Kyle Busch, then certainly teams like Petty GMS, who just recently cut loose Ty Dillon and would have an open seat, would certainly not be able to pay him. Like I said yesterday, Kyle Busch is in big trouble. No sponsor and demanding a lot of money. Toyota wants to keep him and are probably the only ones that can pay for the privilege. But will they? We'll just have to wait and see. And when it breaks, I will cover it. This weekend I'll be covering IndyCar at Iowa Speedway, so if you're interested in seeing any coverage from that, stay tuned and subscribe here on the channel. But ultimately, I'll leave you with this. The real option, and the one I've ignored the entire video, is that Kyle Busch is going to Rick Ware Racing.